is great. So what we're talking about, let me bring it back. Embracing your true calling. Embracing your true calling. It's all about having that purpose for your life and knowing what that is. And I realize a lot of people don't know what that is for themselves yet. Some people never find out. So I shared with you some of my story last week, talking about how, you know, the Steve Jobs quote that we can't connect the dots looking forward, right? We can only connect them looking back. And when I look back over my life, it's amazing how these pieces have come together for me to stand where I stand. Because I couldn't tell you any of that when I started. I mean, I had a whole other picture for my life, the trajectory of my life, and it's nothing of what I thought it was going to be. So just hang in there. If you don't know what yours is, if you don't feel like you're there, you're on your path. You can't not be. You can't not be. So last week I shared some of my story, and I just want to tell kind of up to date. Some of you know that I do a prison ministry. There are several of us here at the center that started out as Toastmasters, and we just go every week. There's a group of guys that have several groups now, actually. We started with one, and now have 5 different groups that meet in the prison. The men's prison, the women's prison, the reentry center, and it's taken on a whole life of its own. So I started with Toastmasters, but in the 3 years that I've been doing this, I also do a lot of science of mind teaching. So I started with them doing a curriculum that was a 10-week curriculum on peace-building principles, and we've stretched it out to 16 weeks. And it's amazing. It's a lot of the same stuff that I'm teaching you all on Sunday morning. I go into the prison and I share it with these men. So I was there Thursday. It was Thursday, Lita? Lita was with me Thursday. And we weren't really talking about purpose, but some of the other things, talking about how to regulate your own emotions and talking about conflict resolution and how to influence the emotions of others and taking responsibility for our feelings and for what we put out in the world. And one of the gentlemen shared a story, something that happened for him this week that just, it touched my heart so, because it makes me feel like, you know, we're really doing what we set out to do. This guy's been in prison for about 20 years. Was convicted at age 17 of murder. It was a murder. It was a gang-related incident. He didn't know the victims. He just got caught up in something as a kid. So 17 years old. He's been behind bars for 20 years. We go in and we teach, and we bring a little light. You know, as you can imagine, prison's kind of a dark place. It's a very, very, very different existence than for most of us. When a guy shares his gratitude at the beginning of the session and says, I'm glad I figured out how to get the ants out of my bed. Because there have been ants in my bed for months, and now I can finally sleep. It's a different world. It's a different world. So this guy, back to our friend Yogi, shared that he is teaching classes at the prison himself to young hoodlums, is how he referred to it. Guys who are gangbangers like he was, you know, at age 17. And so they know everything, you know. They know everything. And they're continually challenging. There's lots of testosterone, as you can imagine, in a male prison. And he just is working with these guys, and he threw out a challenge. It was a burpee challenge, wasn't it, Lita? Said 100 burpees. He's going to give $5 to the guy who can do 100 burpees. And they're all thinking, piece of cake. Now he actually can do it. These young bucks couldn't, except for one that kept going and going and going. Didn't look like he was going to get to the 100. And Yogi just coached him and threw in another $5. You know, $10 has a lot in prison too. They're all cheering this guy on. He actually, I think he got through the 100. What happened in the aftermath of that was a little buzz on the compound, and people started talking about what he had done with this young man. And this kid was just really touched. This guy took time, spent with him, challenged him to do something he didn't think he could do, and he did it. And Yogi told me, he said, you know, there isn't enough money to pay for the feeling that I got from that. Right? There is just not enough to tell you how good it felt for me to make a difference for him. and know that other people saw it. And I was like, yes, this is what we're here to do. You know? If we can help people even behind bars find their purpose in that environment, it's like, what excuse do the rest of us have? Just keep hanging in there. Just keep hanging in there. There's light. There's light. That's why I do what I do, because I've been in a dark place. Not as dark as that prison. Not as dark as that personally, but I have had my own. And lots of us here. Lots of it. I know everybody here has been on some kind of a spiritual path. And if you just hang in there, you do the work, you get to the next level. And that's what it's all about. And we're here to help one another do that. So I just wanted to share with you that, you know, that there's people right now, even behind prison bars, that are finding their purpose because of the work that happens in here. It's a great, huge ripple effect. You have just no idea the lives that you touch, each and every one of you, in being here on a Sunday morning, and for classes and the other things that we do here. So I thank you for that. And they thank you as well. So my inspiration for today's talk, as we go a little bit deeper into finding your purpose, comes from this book, The Great Work of Your Life. I was introduced to this in ministerial school. You know, there's something when you start living from that place of purpose, and as I said last week, it's when your personality, when your gifts and your talents and your interests, when you use all of that stuff of your personality to further your life purpose, to make a difference for other people, for animals, for the planet, for something bigger than yourself, when you use all that, you are unstoppable. Amen. That's what you came here to do. And life flows, and it becomes fun. And a lot of the suffering, I mean, pain still happens, right? Pain happens to all of us. It's part of the universal. It's a condition of life. People die, they get sick, we lose jobs, we grieve. But the suffering piece is what's optional. And as you live in your purpose and you live in your passion, the suffering kind of eases away. And things start to click, right? You start seeing synchronicities and things pop up in your life that, wow, I didn't even know I needed that. And there it is, like Spirit provides. So I felt like this was one of those things, just finding this book. It's just like, I don't know what I'm going to tell, like, how am I going to pull this together this week? And there it showed up. It was just right there. So, The Great Work of Your Life. The tagline says, a guide for the journey to your true calling. And it starts with these questions. And you may want to ask these for yourself right now. Am I living fully right now? How many of you can say that? I'm living. I'm using all my potential right now. Am I living my life's calling? Do I know what my life's calling is? Am I living it? That's a question. I thought this was an interesting one. Am I willing to go to any lengths to offer my genius to the world?
Yes.
How many of you think you have a genius to offer this world? Each and every one of you do. Whether you believe it or know it yet or not, there is some gift inside of you. There is something that you came here with that only you can give. It is part of your essence. It's part of that seed that you didn't create, that Spirit created through you. And it's here waiting for you to give it life. So the inspiration for that book, for this one, for the Great Work of Your Life, comes actually from the Bhagavad Gita. How many of you have heard of that? Don't know what that is? Good. How many of you, anybody read it? A few have read it. Awesome. So for those of you who don't know, the Bhagavad Gita is over 2,000 years old, and it's Hindu scripture. It's a sacred book of the Hindus, the Bhagavad Gita. And you may not know this, but it was the one book Gandhi took to prison when he was behind bars. It was a great inspiration to Henry David Thoreau. As he was on Walden Pond, he had this book with him. And it was a great inspiration to the founder of this movement, Ernest Holmes. So the Bhagavad Gita shows us how to make the world of action. That's the world that we live in. Your day-to-day workplace, your family, your church, all of that, to make that your arena for spiritual development. And it really is, it teaches us that fulfillment happens not in retreat from the world, but by engaging with the world. When we think of spiritual practice, very often we're thinking of monks that need to remove themselves, sit up on a mountain, be in a cave someplace. I need my me time, hours and hours of meditation and pulling yourself away from everyone and everything. This is a way to find your enlightenment through engagement with the world. Being a mother, being a father, being whatever kind of work you do. And finding your fulfillment through that. And finally, it's a path. The Bhagavad Gita lays out a path for finding your Dharma, for fulfilling your Dharma. How many know that word? Dharma. Some of you have heard of that from the TV show, right? Dharma and grace. Well, Dharma is one of those words that's very difficult to translate. You know, there are words that mean a whole lot in one language, and when you try to bring it into something else, it's difficult. You can't find an exact one-to-one. So Dharma means a lot of things. It means your path. It could be a teaching. It means it's the law of how we talk about spirit being the everything, being the law, how things happen, the manifestation, the cause, all of that. Dharma is part of the law. It refers to your vocation, which could also be your sacred duty, what you came into this world to share and to offer and to be. And the essence of who you are is your Dharma. The Dharma of a rose is to blossom. Right? The Dharma of rain is to fall, is to be wet, is to be water. Everything, every one of us has a Dharma. The Dharma of an apple seed is to express what it is to be apple as compared to an orange or anything else. Each one of us has an essence within us that is ours to express. And that's what your Dharma is. So your life work is really to find out what that is and then express it as fully as possible. So the story starts, the Bhagavad Gita, it's an epic story. There's a battle, and there are these two folks. Well, there's lots of people on the battlefield, but these are our heroes. We have Arjuna, who is a warrior. That is his Dharma, is he was born into warrior class. He's good looking, he's strong, he knows what he's here to do in this world. And Krishna is the charioteer who's actually disguised. Who he really is God. So these two are having a conversation on the battlefield, and Arjuna is ready to go, only when he gets the sense of foreboding, something terrible is going to happen, and this battle is about to, it's the way they said it is to tear apart the fabric of the universe. It was a big deal, and he walks out there, he's ready to do his thing, until he looks out at the crowd, at who he's going to be fighting against, and realizes it's his own family. His own family. Now he's in a mess. Now he's in a mess. Because either way, he's in trouble. If he kills these people, he has now created a karma for himself that could be very negative. Right? From killing family, even though he's a warrior, this is family. That's a whole other thing. And if he doesn't step up and fight and do what he needs to do, again, there's problems because he's not fulfilling his Dharma, what he came to do. So he's in a jam. It's a very difficult predicament. And over the rest of the book, however many chapters it is, I think it's 17, 18 chapters, it's right here. Here you go. He gets all kinds of wisdom from Krishna, who talks him through, and by the end of it, he does eventually reach enlightenment. So here are the questions that come up, and here's how it relates to all of us. Oops. Didn't fall. Once they're down, I didn't want them to fall anymore. Okay. So here are the questions that come up. And these are questions for all of us. Again, it's not just Arjuna's question. We are Arjuna in this story. We're all of it. So, what's mine to do? What do I do in this situation? And here we are with two really crappy choices. How do I choose between these two really bad choices? Then what happens if I make the wrong choice? What are the consequences to that? And does it really matter what I choose? How many people have found themselves asking these questions about fill in the blank? Fill in the blank about, do I have a family? Do I take this job? How do I talk to my relatives when I see what they post on Facebook? We're in difficult positions. We're in difficult... And what Arjuna is dealing with and what we are dealing with is doubt. When you get right down to it, it's doubt, it's fear, and it can be paralyzing. Some people stay in that place of doubt for their whole lives. I call it analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
You have a decision, I'm going to ask as many people as I can for their opinions, and I'm going to do my pros and cons, and I'm going to sit and I'm really going to think about this, and maybe I'll make the decision next week. It's just too much. And then next week turns into months, and then it turns into years, and then you realize you haven't made any moves, you haven't done anything new. This is our dilemma. Doubt can be a paralyzing affliction. I think it's in quotation marks, I think it probably came from the Gita too. So the question is then, how do I find my true calling? Inside of all of that doubt and all of those questions and all these things people keep shitting on me. You should do this, you should do that. Don't let people shit on you. Don't shit on yourselves. There's a way for you to get rid of all the noise and find your true calling. Your true calling. So what's the first thing that you want to do? How do we do this? Number one, look to your Dharma. Seek your higher self. To thine own self be true. You need to take it, turn it within, and determine what is really yours. What is really yours. And I use this graphic because you know what that is, right? Can you tell?
Yeah.
It's a DNA strand, right? And the other piece has to do with the golden section, the golden mean. That number that we find in nature that is around the petals of a flower, like why petals have five, like why flowers have 5 petals, why pineapples are the way they are, why a pine cone, like there's numbers, there's math in the universe, really in everything. There is a greater order to things, and we are part of that. Again, you didn't bring yourself into this world. You didn't create yourself. You were here created with the perfect DNA to express exactly your Dharma. To look the way you look, to have every talent that you look, to have the interest that you look, that you have. So first look to your Dharma. So there's the realization, that's the first piece, is that I actually do have gifts. Maybe your parents told you didn't have any. Maybe it just never occurred to you. So number one is the realization that yes, I do have gifts. I am here for a purpose and a reason. The next thing is to dedicate yourself to finding what that is and to expressing it. How do you do that? For one thing, by coming to a place like this and doing your spiritual practice. I told you last week, I am not any different than anybody else here. I didn't get a thunderbolt. There was no special revelation. I didn't wake up one day and like, all of a sudden I'm a revered minister. It was nothing like that. It was walking into this place at a time when I was at rock bottom in my life, and I got some tools and some teachings and a soft place to land, and someone who could talk me through it and coach me through it. And as I did this stuff, as I volunteered my time, as I tithed, as I took the classes, as I did the meditation, things started to change. The stuff works when you work it, but you have to be dedicated. You can't sit in here on Sunday morning, listen to a talk, and then just go out and do business as usual.
Amen.
You really need to, this is a way of life. This is a way of life that doesn't end when you walk out the door. That's where you get to practice it. This is in class. I'm giving you the lecture notes. Now you go out in the lab of your life and you work it. You work it and prove it for yourself. And then trust that it works. And the more you do it, the easier it is to trust because you start to see results.
Yes.
You start to see it. I get more and more charged up every time I'm here when I see somebody else that comes to me and says, you have no idea how my life has changed. We literally had a woman here last year who was in a wheelchair. 6 months later, she is jogging. And this was a chronic condition. I see people's lives change right in front of me. And that's part of what I love about the prison so much. Because everything, it's like intense life. Everything is speeded up. It's on a whole different level there. So I get to see it almost in real time as people are changing. And that's what I love about it. That's what I love about this place, is that we get to see one another grow and change. And if you see changes in me, I see changes in you, we know that we're all up-leveling at the same time. So look to your Dharma. That's number one. Number two, I say rediscover your passions. Some of you may already be in touch with them. But if you're not, go back to what it is that you loved when you were a kid. What are the things that light you up? It's a little Rumi quote there. It says, respond to every call that excites your spirit. And you may think, well, it's just not that important. It's important for you. If it's important for you, it's worth you following up. And the best way, I bought a book on this too. It's called Discover the Passion Test, Discovering Your Passions. It's a whole book. It could have been 3 pages. Really, the crux of this book was to make a list of the 10 to 15 things that you would love to be, do, or have in your ideal life. Top 15 things. Write them all down. And then what you do is compare them one to the other. So, for me, it's important to have conversations that matter. That's important for me. It's important to me that I get to be part of transformation, that I am seeing. And I love transformation in all of its forms, whether it's transforming a room or transforming a physical appearance or transforming somebody's life. That's at the top of my list. I want to feel like I am in touch with spirit every day as much as possible. Like I want to feel that connection. So those are 3 things already. Right? You go and fill in the rest of your blanks. I love to travel. I love being with my grandchildren. All those things go on my list. Then you take them one at a time and you compare. Is it more important for me to travel? Or is that more an ideal part of my life, travel, versus feeling that sense of oneness and connection every day? So oneness and connection needs to be the one at the top. And then we compare that to the next ones. And if I find something that's more important than that, then it comes to the top. You understand? So that's what you need to do, is get your list. Go home today and start working on your list, the 10 to 15 things that are part of your ideal life, and then sort them out. The next thing you want to do is give yourself permission to enjoy it. Too many of us don't do that. I'll tell you, this is a little crazy. An aha moment I had at the workshop I just went to in Seattle. I love this work. I love it. I have made it my life's work because I love it so much, because I'm so passionate about it. But here I am in this center where I found religious science, and I stepped in as a volunteer, and I got on the board, and I've been the treasurer, and I did all these things as a volunteer. Now I'm in a position where I get paid, supposed to get paid, to do a lot of the things that I was doing as a volunteer. And I would tell myself, well, it's okay. It's your investment in the center. It's all right, to not get paid. After all, all the other volunteers aren't getting paid. And then I realized, then there's another piece to it too, is like, this is my work. And what I realized, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, because I was going to talk about this during our generosity moment, but in many ways I have done a disservice to this community by allowing that to happen. By not getting paid, by not getting paid. Because if I was to step away from this community, if I got sick, if I moved, if something happened, and you all needed to hire somebody, you couldn't hire somebody to do what I do. You couldn't. The money is not here to pay somebody a decent salary at this moment. So these are things to think about, just throwing this out there. But then we throw another thing into the mix. I love this work so much, I do it for free. I really would. I need to make a living, but I would do it for free, and I do it for free. But then there's the piece that I've looked at that goes, okay, so maybe in some weird way, my consciousness is saying that I shouldn't be getting paid for what I'm doing because I enjoy it too much. Is that crazy? Is that crazy? But think about it. Think about it. A lot of people think that. It's like, if I'm not working hard, if I'm not sweating, if I'm not suffering, I'm not working enough, and maybe I'm not really earning my keep. Can anyone relate to that? Or am I just crazy? Does that make sense for you, right? So allow yourself to enjoy the joy. Allow yourself to enjoy your passion. It's okay. Yes, it's okay for me to love what I do, and it's okay for me to get paid for it. Hallelujah. And I'm open to that. So allow yourself, give yourself permission to enjoy whatever it is. And here's another thing that we think. We think that size is important. I'm here to tell you, everybody, and ladies, I'm sure you're good. Size has nothing to do with it. Size has nothing. When we're talking about your passions and your joys and the things that are yours to do, if you're looking at it and thinking, this isn't big enough, I'm not changing the world, I'm not doing enough, it really can't be my purpose. Surely my purpose has to be something bigger, right? It can't just be to bring joy to my neighbors. It can't just be to see a happy face on somebody when I've given them a great massage. It can't be that, right? Could that be my life purpose? Absolutely. Absolutely it can be your life purpose. Don't discount yourself. This is part of what we do, is we tell ourselves, it's not good enough, it's not big enough, it's not important enough to be my purpose. And you miss the boat. You miss the boat, or you think you have to make a living doing that thing. That also is not true. That also, in fact, when you throw money into the mix, as I already showed you, it kind of messes things up a little bit. It's, again, another reason why I love the prison, because it's just like the purest thing that I do. I go in there and there is no possibility. Well, maybe there is. Maybe one of these days somebody's going to get out and write me a check or pay me something. I'm not doing it for that. I have no expectation that any of those people is going to repay me anything. I do it out of the sheer joy of doing it and giving. And that's what you're to do. Separate the money from it. Don't worry. Do what brings you joy. You know what that is. Just give yourself permission to do more of it. The next thing you want to do is, so you've identified what it is, you put all your list in order, and you know, I have to do these 5 things, have to be part of my life for me to feel fulfillment. And you have those. That's great. Now you need to act on it. Now you need to take action, and action changes things. So you listen for your call. You listen for the moments when those possibilities, when those opportunities come up for you to use your gifts and your talents in the service of others. And be intentional. I added that, with intention. Because if you're sitting on your situation, making that decision, and you're putting off action, do you realize that is still action? Because you're making a decision to allow things to stay the way they are. And that is still a decision. So be deliberate in your choosing. Take action. Listen for your call and act with intention. You have to take action. Otherwise, it's just airy-fairy. It's just a dream. You have to actually do something with it. And then finally, release attachment to the outcome. You do it again for the pure joy of doing it. When I go to the prison, I have them do their before and after. They've done a pre-assessment, they do an after, or they're going to. I can't be attached to what that looks like. I'm there to be in the moment, to offer the service that I offer, just as I'm here with you all to do what I do. If I get hung up on, oh, well, there were 50 people here last week and now there's only 30. Geez, they must not like me, or maybe I'm not serving it. Then what happens? I've gone into doubt. I'm down. Oh, I didn't tell you this part, I think, with Arjuna's story. When he realizes the situation he's up against, he falls to the bottom of the chariot. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. He just lays there, immobilized by fear and doubt. And this is what happens to us. We get to that point where we are immobilized by fear and doubt. So Krishna says to Arjuna, you have a right to work, but never to the fruit of your work. You have the right to work, but you don't have a right to the outcome, to its fruits. You should never engage in action for the sake of reward, nor should you long for inaction. What does that mean? How many of us are waiting for that day when we can retire? And I can kick back, and I can just lay by the pool, and have barbecues, and not have to do anything. Anybody longing for that kind? Right? Some of us, you realize, because sometimes you get there. You might actually get it, and wow, I can hang out now. And it gets old after about 3 days. It's fun for, yes, Grady knows that too. Fun for a month, maybe for some longer. But after a while, you say, I've got to do something. I've got to do something. I didn't come here to lounge by the pool. And that's not what my life is about.
One day a month wouldn't be bad.
One day a month wouldn't be bad. You're right. So you should never engage in action for the sake of reward, nor should you long for inaction. Perform work in this world, Arjuna, as a man established within himself, without selfish attachments, alike in success and defeat. Now, isn't that great advice? Isn't that great advice? A man well established within himself, someone with confidence, someone who knows why they're here and what they're about. Be that person. Be that person without selfish attachments, alike in success and defeat. You be a good winner, you be a good loser, you just take life as it comes. And as long as you're living your purpose, your joy, your mission, you're going to be in joy. And it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It just matters that you express what you came here to be. So another little thing for you to remember starts with intention. Intention, pay attention, do it with no tension. Got it? Intention, attention, no tension. Let it go. And then life flows with ease and with grace and with joy. And you have no tension. You have no tension. No worries. Don't worry. Be happy. Is this helpful for anyone?
Yeah.
All right. So that brings us to our affirmation.